What's up, or DubNation? Rich with Let's Go Warriors here with the season ending podcast, which is actually just an edit of our 5.5 hour live stream that we did from game 5. We talked about having a positive outlook on everything, not every single thing, you'll see. But anyways, I wanted to let you know that this is the season ending mega pod. So enjoy all of the topics. There are timestamps if you look in the description of this YouTube or this podcast. In the background is a picture of Larry Markkinen and Jabari Smith, and it says Warriors Trades. I've already done a live stream on that. So that's the next thing that I'll do is edit that live stream into a podcast. There's a ton of content coming down the pipe. I definitely want to do more and more podcasts at least once a week because we're always running into different topics about the Warriors, even during the off season. And we're going to do live streams of the Valkyries as well as select conference finals games. Of course, Valkyries is definitely a priority. We're going to start a channel called Let's Go Valkyries. And so that's also down the pipeline. And finally, there's the actual Discord server, which took me a whole season and I'm still not quite there to get it out of beta version, let's call it. And so that one is a big thing that's coming in the off season. As the limited number of users know that's on the Discord as we speak, it's one of the best tools out there, if not the best, for aggregating and filtering Warriors information. And as we approach the draft, as we approach July 1st, when Jonathan Kuminga is eligible to receive an offer sheet as a restricted free agent, things are going to get really interesting. So I think the Discord will still be super relevant. Hopefully this mega pod will kind of really solidify what we're all about. So thank you, Dean Chambers, for being my co-host, because you've got quite the podcast voice. Happy graduation to Mr. Chambers as well. Just graduated with a degree in creative writing. Again, this podcast, the first part has me at halftime talking about, lamenting some of the issues that the Warriors without Steph had during that game. And then it just kind of goes into the post game. So it's not all that smooth of a transition. I did not have the time to insert little SpongeBob a few moments later. Little spots. I didn't have time to include any post-game interviews. And I do think that you'll leave this podcast feeling pretty good about the Warriors. And I think you'll feel even better after I do this Warriors Trades podcast, which is coming up in the next week. Again, you can catch everything that we have on the website, letsgowarriors.com. A subscription there, which is $5 a month on Substack, gets you free access to our Discord. The Discord itself will also have its own subscription engine that'll be separate, but also overlap at the same time. And of course, subscribe on YouTube to Let's Go Warriors, all one word. We'll continue to go live on our YouTube channel and do these podcasts and every game of the NBA Finals. And then after that, Eric G from NBADraft.net, a week and a half before the draft, because that's the only time he's available. So we've got that. And then draft night, got a whole bunch of guests. This will be our 4th year doing that. And then July 1 as well, we're going to do free agency live stream. There's just a lot of good stuff coming down the pipe, even though it's the off season. So with that, here's a flashback to game 5, but also a lot of talk about the off season. We'll go down by 15 at halftime. I still have hope that somebody will wake up, but I don't know why we went away from Trace. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what to do about that. Everybody needs Steph, including Draymond. Even though Draymond's 4 for 8, but he's 1 for 4 on threes, and that's the difference of one make or miss. Randall believes no one can guard him. Yeah, that's the mentality he's built over 4.5 games now. That's the situation. Thanks, Bloomer. I'm glad you feel that way. At least I was able to change one person's life online. I don't think people realize that when your whole team makes threes led by certain guys that are making threes, you feel better about yourself too, and you start hitting shots too. Only other guy that I can think of that is a dead ringer all by himself, a lone wolf, is Mo Spates. Who else has there been besides Clay? So I think it's not so much, oh, we've had shooters before and this year we don't. I think the fact that we had a dyad of Steph and Clay just spread to the other team. And also, KD can shoot. But since then, since Clay, it's really been, I don't know. Buddy is just so erratic. He's Clay, just less frequent. So Buddy will have a 9 3-pointer game 7, but Clay would have had every 7-game series, 2.5 games of that. Hope everything is going well for you and your folks. Yeah, thanks. Everybody has their ups and downs. I don't really bring that into, I partition it. So I don't let that affect the Warriors, and I don't let Warriors affect the family either. Try to, at least. Anyways, I did think of one for you, Amon. Mo Spates. He's a lone wolf shooter that can make it. Melton, honestly. Melton. That's another lone wolf guy that'll just hit a shot. But we didn't get to see him that much. Sean Livingston from 2. So there's that, right? So yeah, we're missing one of those guys. But I think the presence of Steph or Clay really matters. Just hoping for someone to step up still. I just don't want to be here when the buzzer sounds and I'm still waiting for someone to step up. Still got another half. Down by 15. I don't know what to do. I already gave my suggestions in the article, which were a whole lot of Jimmy, but we haven't been getting a whole ton of Jimmy. He's 2 for 5. Is Moses in the building? I would hope so. Yeah, here's a good suggestion. Missing a player like Malik Beasley. The only problem is he's not a vet min, so at least I don't think he is. Traded to Detroit. What was it? $6 million. Can't do it. So generally speaking, can't do it when they're making more than minimum. Extremely confident for the next 2 years. I'll feel confident after I know what happens to JK and what we're going to do with that salary slot. Be good to get Melton back somehow. I was thinking just out of the blue, what if we could go get Jabari Smith, trade Kuminga for Jabari Smith? That would get me excited. What's he at? Yeah, it's overpay. So those tiny little crazy ideas. I love Jabari Smith. He's a shooter. He's 6'10". Imagine Jabari Smith in this mix, let's say without JK. Like, you just tell him, okay, Steph's injured. Dude, just go score some points. Like, just get the ball up. I think he could do it. I really do. So that's what I would do. I just thought of that today, though. So, and Houston has a lot of stuff they need to figure out. And I've been told Jabari isn't that high on the depth chart. All right, Dean.
How's it going, Rich?
Good to have you, man.
Yeah, good to be here. Good to be here with our friends. Got a little Bruce Morrow love for Jimmy Butler. Said, what was the first comment? What was it? He said, so thank you, Butler, for what you brought to the Warriors. He was against the Butler trade. He did his best, so thank you, Butler, for what you brought to the Warriors. I love that no one on the team is, or everyone on the team is saying, we're not making any excuses. The Wolves are a great team. They played excellently. They beat us. And I think that's pretty valuable, actually. There are, and no one on here is making any excuses, even though there are reasons why it was one way or the other. I really appreciate that. We're not angry with our players. We're not belittling the Timberwolves or saying, oh, if we'd had this or that. That's a sign.
If we had Steph.
Yeah, obviously, if we have Steph, it's different. The Timberwolves know that, but we're not making excuses to. That happens. We're not trying to say, oh, they wouldn't have beaten us. They weren't good enough. They're a great team, and they played excellently. They just played an elimination game and shot 62% from the field and 41% from the three. And you tip your cap and you move on. I think there was a lot of things that we learned, though. You never know what the moves are going to be in the offseason, of course, but if we basically roll back this team, if that were to happen, I think we've learned a lot of things, and we have a lot more time to have a whole offseason, a whole training camp, a whole preseason together, go through the regular season together, and there was incredible growth all year long, I thought, from everybody. And you were mentioning a little bit more creativity or whatever from the coaching staff. People have talked about Butler shooting more. Obviously, if we were to have Kuminga, you'd hope he would play a lot more minutes and be trusted a little bit more as one of the best scorers on the team. And there's no complaints about Steph based on what he did this playoffs, because he's the reason we won Game 7 and obviously won that game. Won big with him out there. But even still, you can talk about understanding how to limit the turnovers. That's way better than making an excuse as to like why we lost and we were actually better. We're not doing that. We don't do that, man, because these guys are clearly winners. And I was very impressed by what I saw when that buzzer sounded. Warriors did not hang their heads. They went and congratulated, obviously, the other team, but it didn't feel like an upset group to me, in part because they did what the only thing we ever demand from anyone on this team, which is fight until the very end. And I loved the effort that they put in. A lot of teams would have given up after that third quarter, down 20 or 18 or whatever it was. And they kept fighting. They kept trying to improve. And just look at Pajemski, right? He had such a rough series after that game 3 or game 4. I can't now remember what it was against the Rockets. He started to play a little better, had that point where he went up for a shot, turned, and threw the ball away. Coach Kerr was really animated, really getting into him on the sideline, and he responded with passion, not with being upset at being coached hard. JK, that's a super difficult thing to be in a contract year, to get DMPs or lack of minutes until a guy gets hurt and then you're thrown in. Did he look like he was ever out there giving up? No. Made mistakes, yeah, but he played hard. He kept trying to score. He kept going at it. Moses Moody, such a struggle this whole series against the T-Wolves. He comes out and he's aggressive and confident. And that's all you can really ask from a team. And they gave us that all year long. I'm very proud of this team and this group of players. Obviously, a huge adjustment at the trade deadline with guys in the locker room really openly upset, talking about how, not upset, I shouldn't say that, openly emotional, having to see Wiggins go and Slow-Mo and Schroeder and Lindy and all those guys. And yet they made it feel like Jimmy Butler's been on this team for years, man. That's a difficult thing to do, to sprint to the finish line until the final minute of this game after everything we had to go through with Steph going down and everything. It was only until literally the final minute of this game that the Warriors were like, it's over. It really, we were fighting with 98 seconds to go. It was only with 60 or 55 seconds left or whatever that they were resigned to their fate, which is fine. It was over. But this team showed incredible heart, incredible will, and a real feeling of togetherness that shows that we are going to be able to weather whatever the storms are ahead, who knows what happens in the offseason when you lose. But I know that we're going to be able to weather this stuff, and these guys are going to remain together. Because if there was a time to show fractures, it was being gentlemen swept tonight, and they didn't show any. If there was a time to give up, it's being down 20 in an elimination game when the other team's shooting. Had a half shooting 61% and then improved in the second half. They improved their field goal percentage in the second half from 61%. I was watching with my parents, and I said, they're struggling to miss. The Timberwolves were struggling to miss shots all night long. Everything they're throwing up is going in. And lots of times those are haymakers, those are backbreakers, which we've seen time and time again from Steph. And they didn't care. They're just going to keep playing until the end. Hey, elimination, man, where is thy sting? I was very proud of this team, as disappointed as it was to not have a chance for a game 6 or to try maybe to get Steph back or a shot at the conference finals. Yeah, all that stinks, but they're great. We played with the old cliche, the heart of a champion. That's how I'm mostly feeling. And we'll be a little bit more rested. Steph was in the Olympics, which ended in like August, didn't it? So that's right into training camp, that 12-3 start, and then the just slump in the middle of the season, the trade, sprint to the finish line, the Harrison Barnes shot that sent us like into the play-in, having to play the Grizzlies, then play hockey against the Rockets, and then face this Minnesota Timberwolves team that everyone said, the cat trade, Randall, do you trust him? Dude turns into Magic Johnson meets Larry Johnson or something like that. And that was tough. And we'll have a whole time to rest, no Olympics. Steph's going to be well rested, you assume. No extra injury for Steph. And we'll have a training camp together with Steph, Draymond, and Jimmy. And I hope we bring back these young guys. I really like them and think that they'll be even better next year. Either way, this team will have a lot more opportunity to iron those things out when we're not in the playoff push. We can do that in October. So I'm super excited going forward. Although, man, I'm going to miss covering the Warriors, coming on here, talking to you nearly every game, Rich. Don't go away. We'll still be around, of course, but I'm going to miss that a lot. T-Mac famously never made the second round until he was with the Spurs and didn't play, or something like that.
Oh, wow.
So just making it to the second round is difficult. You have to appreciate that. I know all the championships and banners makes it seem like it's easy, but if you told me we're going to face a really tough Rockets team and win in 7, and then we're going to win a game and then have a chance in another 3 and only get blown out once, really, against an excellent Timberwolves team that's absolutely on fire. When we were 25-26, man, I think I would have been okay with that.
Yep.
So just appreciate the successes we've had too.
The competitive side of me is a little disappointed that we could not figure them out one time out of 4. Now, it remains to be seen whether that's because Minnesota is that much more talented than us, and they could be. They really could be. Show me them in the next round, and then we see. I'm actually rooting for Minnesota right now because, one, it will take the sting out of us losing to them out a little bit more. And secondly, Ant is on such an upward trajectory. If it's not us, let's get Ant the championship sooner rather than later. Let's check that off. I'm thinking that. And that's also along the lines of, I actually don't like the way OKC plays in terms of just slow the ball down and just give it to Shea type deal. Although that's very similar to Ant when need be. But now they have a two-headed monster with Randall doing the work inside and distributing. So it is a little bit more pleasant to the eye than OKC. Now, but I love Jalen Williams. Don't get me wrong. It's just, I guess there's a little jealousy in there in that OKC has all these draft picks and this and that, and they can do so many things. Minnesota's window is much more constrained than OKC if you want to really root for an underdog. And who's to say that when he becomes that 9th year, 10th year unrestricted free agent, usually guys like him don't stay in small markets like Minnesota. So those are some reasons why I personally am leaning towards rooting for Ant from this point forward. I mentioned that because maybe Minnesota really is that awesome in that us without Steph really just has no chance. And yeah, 4 straight losses against them. Yeah. Remains to be seen. But right now, I felt a little disappointed that we couldn't come up with something or guys couldn't step up big time. I can be a little bit mad or disappointed at Quentin Post for shooting bricks, except for the 1-3 that he made. Everything else was pretty much bad. And on both sides of the ball, maybe one time he disrupted probably Jaden McDaniels or Nikhil driving in, which was great. But like for every 10 plays, like 7 of them were bad by Quentin Post. Deer in the headlights, this and that. And yet this guy barely has any reps. We got to get some regular season games under his belt and all that. So I need to get away from this 1 or 4 bad results in a row, meaning my overall competitiveness. I thought we could have got just one, get it to game 6, maybe, but I might be a little too overeager on that, I admit. So I think it's okay to feel some of that, but yeah, don't throw your guys under the bus. Plenty of opportunities for improvement coming up for everybody who underperformed.
I think Post is one of the few players in a positive plus minus, which is single game, whatever, but he definitely played hard. Had a couple rookie turnovers, but I think he can definitely improve on that. I think I'm rooting for the Timberwolves as well. I don't want to lose JK. I'll be on that side until whatever happens. I want to keep him.
Why? That's a good discussion, though. Steve's not going to play him.
You think he's going to play him now after this?
With Steph?
What we just watched?
What we just watched was without Steph.
That's a little lack of creativity for me, in my opinion.
You think Steve has creativity?
Huh?
You think Steve has creativity?
I think he could have much more creativity than.
I don't think he has it.
That's not good.
Yeah.
I don't want that for my coach.
Why would you keep JK if he doesn't want to be on the team?
To see if he thrives in a different role. And also because I prefer
why would you
than
if you were JK, why would you stay on the Warriors?
Because we're the team that can offer any major contract he can get. That's the way these contracts are designed to work.
What I'm trying to say is, so like I've told you, I've been told that JK doesn't want to be on the Warriors.
I understand that.
So for you to go, I want JK to be a Warrior, like that doesn't, like, I guess you can say emotionally, I want JK to stay a Warrior.
But I think it's possible. I think it's possible that the situation could change and he could be trusted much more. Look, I don't want him to be a Warrior if he gets treated the same way he got treated this year. I want him to find somewhere better. But if the situation were to change, I think it's possible that we could work it out. I believe Steph can work it out with anyone, really, if they're willing to play team basketball and do things the right way. And I haven't heard anything like JK is lazy or whatever. I haven't heard any of that. I'm going to keep advocating it because it's an emotional side, but I also think we saw a lot of upside from him in a way that we can utilize him next to Jimmy. And
I know the emotional side of it is just, I just like sometimes logic has to come in.
I have been thinking about this for months, though, and advocating for JK to play more for months. And when we saw it, it worked. And I know Steph wasn't out there, but when we didn't have Jimmy and we played him next to Steph, it did help keep our season afloat. So I think there is evidence that it can work already.
That matters. The only thing that matters is Steve didn't play him. So
that's Steve's problem. That's not
utilizing
our best talent. I don't think that's JK's problem.
The only way to keep JK would be to fire Steve and convince JK that the new coach is definitely going to play him in the Steph, Jimmy, Draymond triumvirate.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. But you don't think there's any possibility Steve would change?
It's too late for that. Because why would Jonathan go, oh, okay, yeah, Steve might change. Okay, I'll give him a chance. Man, you don't get contracts like this very often and opportunity to blossom. And he's got a championship. He wasn't a factor on the court to get that championship, but he has that. And it's very similar with Jordan Poole kind of thing. So if JK goes to a losing team, so be it. What's so bad about that? There's 20.
What's bad about that is that look, I mean, if we got Lauri Markkanen for him or something like that, then, it's win-win. Because JK will have unlimited opportunity to do whatever he wants in that type of system. We got a guy back. That is one thing about restricted free agency, though, is they don't have leverage. If it's the case that we have to pick between keeping JK or losing him because Kerr burned that relationship, I'm not happy at all with that line of thinking that led to that. That is not a good sign. And maybe it'll work out. It's not like I'm going to stop rooting for the team at all. It's not like I don't think the team has the opportunity to get better. But I think obviously JK will be huge in terms of discussions of what's going to happen in the offseason. That domino will affect a lot of different, just talking about whether JK wants to be here, whether Kerr wants him to be here, Kerr's here, whatever, just the contract. What that number between 36 and 38 is such a huge difference between being just under the second apron and being over it potentially. That's such a huge domino that Lacob and Dunleavy are going to have a really interesting decision to make. However, if I know anything about the Warriors, they are not going to let an asset walk for nothing. They're not going to let him go without getting something in return. It's the biggest question mark, but it also has the potential to be the biggest benefit for the team. If Kuminga's like, they have the right to match, and they've guaranteed that I'm going to play 36 minutes a game and whatever, That's why restricted free agency exists. If there's a sign and trade in place for another great player, JK's happy, I'm just going to have to swallow the medicine and move on. I understand that. But I think it might be a little different than he's just automatically gone. I think I've not seen that from Lakem. Every time he talks about him, it's in glowing terms. And I understand there are sources. But we have to get something out of it. We have to.
I'm not saying, no, that part of your reasoning isn't the part that I find faulty. But no, it's okay. It's cute that you want JK so badly, but it ain't happening. Like,
well,
based on the information of today, and that information changing, very unlikely, like less likely than us winning one of these last 4 games. It's like very low probability. So I guess we just disagree on that. But we do agree that, of course, Lakem's going to try and turn that into something. We definitely don't want JK to walk. I wonder if there's a mathematical thing that you would do with the cap sheet that only really Brooklyn can manipulate, that we couldn't sign and trade JK. I hope not, but I don't want to overlook anything. The bad thing about picking JK was that he never really fit with Steph, and we picked him during an era where we weren't really thinking about that, because honestly, we thought we would have Steph and Clay for a while back then. We didn't know that the defensive acumen of Clay would drop off so far that we actually couldn't play them together in the starting unit. Also, the NBA became way more athletic quickly. Because if we could just go in a time machine, wouldn't we have drafted Franz Wagner? Doesn't he fit much better with Steph?
I don't know about that. I didn't like his highlights coming out of college. He bobbled the ball a lot, and he's had a lot of time to make all the mistakes he wants in Orlando. But maybe Kerr would have played him more, although.
Yeah. Anyway, Brooklyn might be handcuffed here because they can't do a sign-and trade for someone they offer to. So if they offer and then we match that, then they can't be the recipient of a sign-and trade if somehow they coveted JK more than Cam Johnson. If you're Brooklyn, it would be more ideal to get JK and Cam on the same team. Now you're building something.
Yeah. Big wings for a big bird.
Like I said, if Brooklyn offers JK and we match it, then we can't trade JK to the Nets.
It seems to me like the Warriors are just going to offer him a contract. That would make all this a lot easier than letting him hit restricted, right? Don't you think?
Sure. Yeah. Just come to terms.
Yeah.
I've said earlier tonight, I listened to the Houston Rockets podcast analysis from this very guy that runs cap sheets, Yossi Goslin. He has a beat writer from each of the 30 cities come on, 30 franchises. I wonder who's going to invite for Golden State. I can't wait to see who they bring on. It could be Slater, because he's had the athletic guy from the Clippers, Law Murray, who I met during All-Star weekend. And he's had DeMichael Cole, who I also met from Memphis. So I'm getting to know a lot of these other dynamics of other teams. So they're really good podcasts, although they get into the weeds a little bit. So your average fan isn't going to find a lot of value in it. So the Houston guy was saying that you got to remember, how far up on the depth chart did you see Jabari in the series against the Rockets?
Yeah, I thought that was surprising, really.
Yeah, so he's expendable. Okay. And that's what the Houston guy said. I have targeted Jabari as a guy that I want because he's 6'10". He can play defense. Best of all, he can shoot the damn rock. So I think he's a perfect fit on this team. And he would probably play a lot.
What's the most important part of that? His skill set, I mean, to you.
The shooting.
Yeah, I thought so.
It's Clay-like. He's not a shooter like Clay, but it just, that's our Clay to get back. And I even said before, Austin Reeves is another one. Come to think of it, I listened to the Lakers cap sheet analysis. They have some decisions to make coming up, the Lakers. Austin Reeves was the name that was tossed around by Yossi as a guy that they should probably do something with now than later. So I think those guys are on my list. Like Jabari, I probably like Austin Reeves better than Cam Johnson. I don't know why. Cam is probably a better defender. I don't know. Maybe just the approximation to Clay. But yeah, so I got Jabari, Austin Reeves, and Cam Johnson as three guys that I wouldn't mind if they were traded for a sign and trade with JK just to improve the team. But the Jabari one is a little more, it's almost like a draft pick. You kind of get really excited about it because he's a young guy. He's long.
Yeah, the second draft. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. He was a number 3 pick too. So anyways.
It was really important to have a guy who can get like to the hoop and hit layups, which is why I thought a guy like Kuminga would have really helped next to Steph because you have that inside out. And Butler is obviously more of a spray it around the court type of guy rather than – I love Jimmy, but he's not throwing down those dunks. However, it does seem like that's not really what Kerr wants. He wants a shooter. He wants guys who can shoot, who can dribble, even if they're not as athletic as other teams, big guys.
You consider the other way to look at Jabari is these last 4 games, replace JK with Jabari. Don't you think we had just a better chance?
I don't know. I haven't seen Jabari play any playoff games.
JK is still making JK mistakes. JK
that's true.
Played up to, I thought JK was JK. I thought Moody was not Moody, for example, until the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I thought QP was not QP. I thought BP was not BP until late third quarter after the yelling he got from Steve tonight. So
I love the way he responded to that. I really do respect that he responded to that. That's tough. It's mental toughness.
Yeah. That's why I'm currently enamored with Jabari. And that literally did not happen until yesterday. I listened to the Yossi Goslin Houston cap sheet, and they said Jabari might be available, like probably if they want to do something. Houston's problem is indicative of the series they had against us. They don't have an A1 like Ant. When you face a defense like the Warriors that we played, they don't have an A1 off the dribble to create some of that. And wouldn't JK almost be that? Maybe almost, at least close. So who knows? It's just kind of my thing to covet right now because to soothe the pain of the loss that we just had, or the 4 straight losses that we had. Anyways, that's why I'm excited about that, because I need to move on and cope with this disappointing end to the season, which in retrospect, like you said, opening things off, I'm actually pretty happy with the season.
Definitely. Shivansh asked would they want to move on from a guy like Jabari, even with their quote-unquote excellent shooting. So you would think they're looking for a shooter. Everybody in the league is looking for shooters, of course. Would JK fit on the Rockets if we're moving him? That's another side of it.
But to answer that question, wouldn't you can you picture JK on the Rockets against us in Game 7? Wouldn't he be able to penetrate and get to the nail?
I think he would have killed us with our lack of size.
Yeah. Jabari for JK it is.
That's not good. We would have lost. No, I don't know. We have Steph.
Yeah, I don't know. You would literally put Jabari on JK. Isn't it harder for JK to beat a mobile 6'10" guy? I don't know.
You don't know. It didn't look
I
like
don't
it was
know
hard
about Jabari's point of view
against anybody.
Yeah.
But I'm a JK guy. I'm biased. I believe in him. But I do think the Rockets are going to want to look for guys who can hit threes, because Fred VanVleet was their best three-point shooter, and he was great, but I'm not sure how consistently reliable that is, especially with Jalen Green struggling. So I do think it'd be funny having Houston Rockets ignite. That's pretty hilarious. Jalen Green and Jonathan Kuminga. Ignite the Rockets. Yeah. We do have assets. We have draft picks. We have a lot of ways that if we want to improve this team, I think we still can. And that was the brilliance of Mike Dunleavy, was getting a guy like Jimmy, who's just totally – I know people are going to criticize it. We only had 17 points, 6 assists, 6 rebounds, 3 steals, but he didn't play as well. He wasn't playoff Jimmy. He didn't have 50. Come on. You can't expect – it's like saying, hey, we need Game 6 Klay to Klay Thompson in L.A. What are you doing? Don't stop. Just let him play, man. But we got that guy without giving up a huge amount of assets, which means we're still in play for guys who are a lot larger contracts than even Jabari Smith, if need be. And it looks like there's going to be some movement. It looks like there's going to be some movement in the NBA here.
Oh, yeah. We haven't even talked about Boston, but there's Boston is facing like the consensus. The issue of the Celtics came up in one of the and it's like, how can they possibly keep Drew Holiday? There's no way.
I think Holiday,
also,
Porzingis, and White are all large contracts. Tatum's going to be out the next season, and they're deep in the second apron.
No one wants
to sell those guys off for less contracts, and they can't combine contracts. So there could be some championship level guys. Yeah,
I think they're stuck with Porzingis due to the injuries.
He isn't expiring though. Could be a cheaper contract, a little overpay for 1 year, and then a little cheaper next season. And we know when he's healthy what he can do. He just hasn't been able to remain healthy for a lot of time. But I hate to make light of the Tatum situation because it's horrible. But I did hear someone mention they could do a Warriors 2.0 when Steph broke his wrist and Klay was out, KD left, and reset, maybe try and get some draft capital, something like that, and come back when Tatum's healthy. If there are guys coming off the Celtics, can you imagine a Drew Holiday? I know it's another old guy, or Derek White or something like that. If some of those guys are available, that would be amazing.
Yossi and the guy Sam Quinn from CBS, they were saying that maybe just take the gap year. You don't have Tatum next year. Just accept it. It's a gap year. But Porzingis and Drew, their contracts need to be dealt with. Mm-hmm. Anyway, the other thing I was thinking, I was inspired by something in the comments. So Jasmine was like, oh, in terms of Jabari, remember Rich last season? Rich goes, oh, it'd be nice if we got Kyle Anderson somehow. We got Kyle Anderson, so maybe there's pixie dust here. And then I was like, wait a minute. The most epic one ever was Dean Chambers. It's Jimmy Butler. So we got that. And, man, we have to pull up the Dean, do me a favor. Go find when you said that first, which live that was. And we'll pull it up, and I'll put it all over social media.
I was advocating for him for so long, I don't even know what month to look for.
I think it had to be December.
I'll try.
But you can look in the comments. You just go into the comments, search on Jimmy. I put the notes in there.
Oh, right? Around December?
So just search on Jimmy. What, 15 games in December? So you search in 15 comments for Jimmy. Like, we didn't talk about him that much early on. So, yeah, we can find that.
Is there any chance we can get KD? Yeah, I forgot about the KD sweepstakes. There's going to be some movement, man.
Yeah. Should we talk about it? Let's go ahead and think about that.
KD's getting moved, I'm pretty sure. Everybody's been saying.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm just saying, yeah, that's no doubt. Phoenix got to get off of KD
He is a tall shooter.
because Bradley Beal not going to do his no trade clause, but also they're looking at ways to shed Bradley Beal too. There was like crazy talk, not crazy, but might even just waive him, just take the hit.
Yeah.
Stretch wave. Yeah, he had to, like Jordan Poole, spend all that time in Washington. So him having the no trade clause, his agent said, yeah, we earned it. You know what? Actually, you did. Because
it did help us get Jimmy Butler too. So I guess I can't be too upset.
yeah, you had to go into a bad franchise and play all those years. And yeah, here's a no trade clause. Boom.
I don't think we would lose Jimmy if we want KD. No, I don't agree with that. I don't think. See, KD said he didn't want to get traded mid-season. No, I'm not trading Jimmy for KD. No.
How would you get KD then?
Oh, they're in the second apron, huh? Dang it. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you just don't get him. I don't want to lose Jimmy, though.
Okay, there's your answer.
Yeah.
Glad you answered it. I don't want to think about that. The less I can think about all these trades, the better.
Yeah. But the point is we have a lot of options, I think. We have draft picks. We have, obviously, JK and Moody are coming into much larger contracts. So I think we have a lot of ability to have our fingers in every pie.
Beal can be good elsewhere. I've heard that Beal would be a good fit next to Steph. I haven't thought about it much.
But we were talking about trading our draft picks for him. No thanks.
Why?
I don't think he's a winner. I'm not too worried about the center position still. I think we just need a little bit more size on
haven't we learned like the whole season has been an education on what fits next to Steph. And it's not Zubats. It's not Claxton. It's not a whole bunch of other centers that can't shoot the three.
Again, if I had a dream, let's put it this way. The only thing that would make me truly happy if we lost JK is Lauri Markkanen. I still believe in that dude. He's 7 feet tall. He can train triples, and he can protect the rim.
Me too.
Also, JK would be totally free in Utah under a great head coach. I think Danny Ainge might be a little bit more open to negotiating. You know?
Oh, first of all, how do you feel about Utah getting the whatever?
That's why you don't tank. Get into the playoffs, man.
Is it? I don't
look. If they had no talent on the team, it'd be fine. They have Jordan Clarkson. They have John Collins. They have Lauri Markkanen. They have talent, and they just threw away these seasons and got the fifth pick. Great.
Yeah, but it's you're never going to educate them. There's no, as long as the mathematical odds are the way they are, then it's one thing for everybody to have equal odds. The bottom teams all have equal odds, but it's another for the Mavs to win it with 1% odds. So that still doesn't deter tanking because you're always going to take the odds, which are 14% versus 1%, unless you made it 10 teams all have equal odds. Then you could deter tanking. But isn't the goal, and this was also on Yossi Goslin's thing, you learn a lot from there. And Sam Quinn likes to write a lot of articles like trade proposals and this and that. I'm not into that as far as reading those. Heck no. But he's actually a pretty reasoned guy when he goes on a podcast and talks about all these broad things. You will learn something despite his need, like any other national writer, for all those juicy articles and stuff, which I always eye roll at, even though those are my colleagues. But that's the state of
NBA. A little addicted to the movement more than the game, perhaps, which a lot of fans are.
Yeah. But anyways, what he brought up was that if the Mavs are winning the lottery, like, what is the point? Like, the point of the draft is to make your terrible teams better. So if the Mavs are winning the lottery, they're not terrible. So why are you making them much better with a guy like Cooper Flagg in the number 1 pick? You're supposed to give these awesome young dudes to the teams that really need them. So that's a problem, I think. But
I have heard a few podcasts about people who were in the room when the lottery balls were taken, and they all said it would be very difficult to rig. The guy was raising his hand. There's
Rick
always
Welts.
going to be conspiracy theories. So
all Rick Welts had to say was what he said. He said, I was there 40 years ago behind the scenes, and I'm the only one who was there yesterday as well. 40 years ago, it was Patrick Ewing. And yesterday, it was Cooper Flagg or whoever we're going to pick number 1. There's no way we could rig that. Trust me. If Rick Welts is saying that, okay, I trust him as a honest person and all that.
Look, so sometimes wild stuff happens. That's why you have a lottery. Now, you could just give it to whoever's the worst team, but then everybody who's not in the play-in would be tanking. You kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't.
We should talk about Looney and GP2. I think GP is more expendable. This is just my opinion because it was so hard to keep him healthy this year. I'd rather have just Braxton Key 82 games and just sick Braxton Key on a guy and I just trust that he's a great defensive player. I've actually not seen his point of attack, so I don't know. And maybe there's DeAnthony Melton. We get DeAnthony Melton. Like, I love GP2. He's a good locker room guy and everything.
Yeah.
I just don't know that there's room on this. And I want to start developing our guys, whether that's Taron Armstrong as the future point guard. And Looney, I don't mind keeping Looney around just in case we hit the playoffs and we need him. But I really want to see Trace develop into that and start to go more youth. I would hope. That's QP. Yeah, QP's a different archetype than Looney, whereas Trace and Looney are similar, like setting screens and playing.
There's still only so many positions or so many minutes at 5, right?
Yeah,
next to Draymond.
There you go. I don't know what that's. I love the guys though, and I feel like tomorrow we needed to play a 7-game series against. Tomorrow is the playoffs again. Fast forward, Loon and GP2, but that's not reality. The reality of it is you have to go through 82 games. It's a totally different experience than playoffs. Then you go to the playoffs. And I just don't know that it's realistic to just keep Looney and GP around all season long. And with GP, it's more of a health thing. With Looney, it's just, I guess if you're riding off the cliff, Thelma and Louise style with the contracts ending in summer 2027, you could line them all up. But
we should improve.
You have to improve. So, unfortunately,
GP2 6'2", man.
Unfortunately, I love those guys.
I love those guys too. Oh man,
I love those in their presence. I would just shut up and just take the L on the discussion if Looney and GP were in the room. But I think it's time to move on and just your 3 old guys are Steph, Jimmy, and Dre.
Loon is still such a great rebounder.
I know, yeah.
And he would really improve by just setting a lot more stable picks. If he did that, it'd be great.
I maybe hide him on I'll keep him along. If they can do it with Udonis Haslem over in Miami, we can do it with Looney. I'm
player coach, 29.
Looney, but sorry, GP got injured too much.
It's not even the injuries, man. We can't keep playing 3 guys who are 6'3". I'm sorry. I don't.
I know.
I just want a little bit more wing size. The centers, I think we're okay. We got to have guys who are league average is 6'6", 6'5". We got to have guys next to Steph who are taller than him. BP's got some height. And look, again, I don't want to get rid of GP2, but oh man, this is why you don't lose, so you can just keep your team together.
Yeah, and Draymond was absolutely correct. Like, there's only going to be one team that can run it back.
That's right. Look
Although
they ran it back, and now they are not running it back again. Unless they pull off the miracle of all miracles here.
Yeah, that's so hard.
That's where I'm really hoping that we see a little bit more creativity out of Kerr, because I think he has done it way more in the past than now. I would just like to see something a little different. I'm not even quite sure what it is. It just felt like sometimes we kept going back to the same formula that worked a few years ago, and the league has adjusted, right? That's what the league does. If something works, like you win a title, the league adjusts to it, right?
Yeah.
Like Gary Payton, I think, is actually a metaphorical casualty of that, in that the league had no idea what to do with two as the 6'2" power forward in 2022, but they've adjusted to him being on the Warriors with if they're going to play Steph, CP3, BP, and GP2 next to Draymond, we're just going to shoot over the top of them because they're not eye level to us. We've adjusted to it.
They're not eye level to us.
I don't mean to be rude, but it's true.
Oh, you made me laugh on a very disappointing force. I love you, man. Well, okay. When you were talking about that, I just wanted to say a couple things. As you said, that is, NBA is all about adjustments, right? And like, the league is adjusted to a special guy like GP. You zoom in to a 7-game series, and it's about adjustments as well. And they learn about you the more you play them.
Yes,
and then let's segue just a little bit more to, do you know how many times people have adjusted to Steph, and Steph comes back and freaking year after year, he gets better, and we come up with, and you know what? I think the coaching staff is going to learn something from Kuminga, assuming he leaves, right? Hey, they made an adjustment. Like, now you adjust as well, right? Like, now be even more innovative so that you don't lose guys that are super valuable like JK is. And just like Apollo 13 movie, like, fit that whatever doohickey into that thing. Just figure it out. I'm agreeing with you, actually. Can you be more creative on the fly just a little bit?
I thought JK would be that adjustment too. Just watching him.
I wanted it so bad.
Yeah. I'm watching him just float past these huge Timberwolves guys to the rim, like, with ease. Yeah. It's like,
how many times
doing that, man?
Go to my website. How many times did I say that JK needed to be involved? I said that a million times. Like, okay, not a million, at least 3 articles talked about JK, giving him the ball. This is pre-Jimmy, right? You remember last year, the Christmas game, all of
inverted
that.
screens, dude.
Inverted screens started working.
Yeah.
And then I was mad when he didn't play against the Clippers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Steph point is amazing. And I think Draymond talked about it in 2023 or during the 22 offseason. Like, we won the title. Steph was able to adjust to get a lot stronger and bigger. And also, I think he said getting into the mid-range more, just being more of a threat. And if you think about it, when Steph won the 2015 MVP, he was averaging like 23 points and 8 boards and 8 assists. Classic pure point guard stuff, right? By the time he's in that finals and through the next season, 2016, Steph does the flip of 11 twos and 8 threes, and he flips it to 11 threes and 8 twos, which no superstar had ever taken more threes and twos. And that worked to get him to a 30-point, 50, 40, 90 scoring title, steals champ, 73-9, season 24 straight wins, gets banged up in Houston, up and down 3-1 against the Thunder, up 3-1 against, we know how that turned out. Then Steph goes into the 2017 finals. He's averaging like a triple-double next to KD. He's averaging like 24, 10, and 10 again. Pure point guard. Next season, KD starts to do a lot more playmaking, and Steph kind of does a little bit more, it felt like a little bit more off-ball shooting guard type stuff. 2019, there's all this wildness. Steph's asked to do everything, then the broken wrist, and then the 21 season, remember, he fractured his tailbone in Houston again. So technically he won a scoring title, carrying the Warriors on a literally broken back. But that gave him that opportunity to be like a little bit more on ball, a little bit more mid-range, a little bit more pick and roll, so that when we went into the 22 playoffs and we had the squad back, we had a healthy Clay, had healthy Dre by the time of the playoffs and everything. Steph was like Point Jordan, man. He was a total on-ball shooting guard, not off-ball like he had been, not a point guard, not a combo guard. Like, he was a dominant on-ball shooting guard. And I'm really excited to see what he does next, because obviously he was worn down by the trade deadline in a place I had never seen him. He wasn't upset. He wasn't kicking chairs. He wasn't crying. He just looked exhausted. But now he is Jimmy. And I'm really excited to see what Steph does next. Honestly, I can see him starting off ball in the low post rather than going around the top of the key. I can see him starting out under the hoop and going back and forth, because that level of gravity is not going to go away. And if you can create Shaq level gravity in the paint, that opens up things for shooters. Not that he's going to shoot a lot of hook shots or lift his knees up when he dunks on guys. I'm extremely excited about that. And the NBA, they've tried to adjust by – there's three images that come to mind, right? First is KD driving down the lane against three defenders. Two go to Steph, one go to Clay, and they give him they give Kevin Durant an open dunk. The second is that 21 season watching Steph get quadruple teamed at half court by a Suns team that was about to go on to make the finals. That was a really good Suns team. And that's their decision. And the final one is watching all the Rockets players get all cuddly and give Steph hugs and hold his arms and dance with him and just kind of maul him up and down the court. They were bear hugging him. All game. That is horror and fear in defensive form, if I've ever seen it. That guy is a monster. And if we had him, I just want to say, if we had him this series, man, if he was healthy, this entire season could be looking a little different. We might have been able to make the Western Conference Finals. And then
that's the thing. Credit Marcus Thompson on Warriors plus minus. It sounded ridiculous that Marcus would go, oh, I think Steph might play game 5. I didn't even put it in the article anywhere, but I talked to a doctor. We had him here before. He's B-ball docs, DOCS, basketball docs, DOCS on Instagram. Gabriel, Filipino guy. I love it. And he's on here. I emailed him and I go, how come Steph didn't look like he was limping to the locker room? Was it just adrenaline, yada, yada? So he detailed it all out.
In game 1.
Yeah. And then he said, and then the risks, which we talked about last live stream, I think. The risks were hamstring connects to the ACL, dude. So, like, you're risking the ACL. I'm like, okay, no, we're not playing Steph at all. Game 5. Heck no.
I totally agree with that. Maybe game 6 if we had gotten this one with the days off, but I'm happy Steph didn't play. We got a well-rested, healthy Steph going to the offseason.
As I was saying, Marcus Thompson's. I actually think he might play Game 5. When you're sitting there listening to that podcast, you're like, "What are you thinking?" Especially if a doctor just told me that there's a risk to the ACL. And then he went on to expound on that, which makes podcasts great because it's hard to do this on Twitter and 280 characters and whatnot, going back and forth, which he doesn't do. Good for him. Stick to the podcasts. It made sense because Marcus Thompson is a Steph guy. He wrote the Steph biography that's out there right now called Golden, which we have a few copies left over. I got to figure out this summer how to send those out as incentives to join our Discord. But what Marcus said was, Steph has got to be looking at this and going, okay, Boston's on thin ice. Sucks that it was because Tatum tore his Achilles, but they were down 3-1 at that point anyway. Cavs are out. OKC Denver seems to be a toss-up, although now we know that OKC's up 3-2 a day later. And of course, Minnesota definitely felt beatable when Steph went down with the injury, and we even won that game to finish out. So it's too bad. It's really too bad because I'm sure Steph, and now we can look at it from Steph's point of view as well. Man, it's so wide open. Come on, we can beat Indiana. We can beat the Knicks. We can beat whoever comes out. We have a fighting chance here, and it's for the championship. And there's only going to be 4 teams left pretty soon. So.
Yeah, one of the MVPs is going down too.
We're right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard someone say that too. Like, it keeps seeming like the West is just going to be impossible. Look at OKC's dominance. I think they'll probably only lose 1 or 2 games the whole playoffs, which they only have lost 2 so far. But look at Houston with their physicality. Look at the Lakers with Luka and LeBron. Like, every year, if we can get past this one opponent, there is an opening, and who knows? But I think the more difficult the West gets, the more the more of an opening is because everybody else is taking themselves out. I don't know if we would have won this year even with a healthy Steph and Jimmy against OKC or the Nuggets, because those are both very difficult opponents. But whoever's coming out of the East, and great as they played, I do think we would have had a much better chance against the Timberwolves. Had we been healthy, there's a possibility we could have been a top 3 or 4 team, maybe 2 or 3. But it doesn't feel like we're that far behind with the right moves. The Nuggets are great because Jokic is amazing, but dude, I think we have more depth, right?
All of these are like fantastic series where it comes down to that 7-game series management and adjustments. Us against Denver is like 2 heavyweights that have high IQs and stuff. OKC is only going to get better with more experience. And shoot, now you expect Dallas to be in the mix next year with a talent like Cooper Flagg.
Unbelievable, bro.
Now they're thinking Cooper Flagg's definitely a 4. He's just a 4 in the NBA. Therefore, what does that mean for AD? Do they want him to go back to the 5 a little bit more? Ergo, they came to the conclusion after a couple dominoes fell like that, they got to trade Gafford or Lively, and it's probably Gafford. So it's crazy how the NBA is going to change like this. And that's with the...
Again, also, there's all this going on, and dude, I think Giannis is going to leave, and I'm almost certain KD's going to leave.
Isn't that crazy? I agree with you. It's like I put myself in Giannis's shoes. I'm sorry. I won you guys a championship. That should be enough.
They don't have any way to improve, man. They can't trade Lillard, and they don't have any draft picks. How are they going to get better?
That's where they're like, It makes more sense for Milwaukee to just start the rebuild now.
It makes more sense for Giannis to go to a team that has a real shot.
Exactly.
And I hate saying that because what if that happened to Steph?
I know, right?
But it didn't. We've got 4 titles. Unfortunately for Giannis in Milwaukee, one is not as secure as 4. So I just hate to say it, but I do love Giannis, and I want him to be in a position where he can contend. Although, if it's not the Warriors and it is the West, that could be a real danger, man. Gosh.
Yeah.
Here we go again. Kyrie be back next season? That's a good question.
Yeah. ACL is not as bad as Achilles.
That's true, but it does keep you out like 8 months anyway, right?
I think it's better than 8 months now. They're just better technology. But I don't know. Might be something we want to ask the basketball docs. Because now we've got to start planning our live streams accordingly. So we got exit interviews. I want to go live for Valkyries. We got to do something in the summer.
There was some other playoff series still, right? Like we did?
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll tune in to that as well.
And don't go away, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be around.
Really learned a lot from all these Yossi Goslin cap sheet dissections with each franchise's beat writer.
Great.
Because eventually it affects us.
I love that you've dedicated yourself to that, by the way, Rich.
I've learned a lot from you, too.
That's the level of creativity that I want to see from the coaching staff, man.
I would imagine, because Steve's been on the podium all season long. He's talked maybe 2 or 3 times about how he might have an argument with Mike Dunleavy, but they have the utmost respect for each other. It's a collaboration. The word collaboration comes up millions of times every season, especially since Mike joined, and Bob carried himself as a collaborative guy. So we knew that. Plus, we had some golden years with Bob. And it's like with Bob, it was like how to transform Golden State into an attractive destination, which he did with Andre and KD. Like, doing that was just like,
and Cousins.
And Bob deserves a statue just for making us like that.
Definitely.
Mark Jackson deserves at least a plaque somewhere for giving us not a statue, because
it was only like 2 or 3 years or whatever.
Didn't win any championships under him technically. All right, so what I'm saying is Bob and Mike is Mike. Right. And what Mike's doing right now is that collaborative thing. He argues with Steve. They have collaboration, though. They respect each other. I would be surprised if Mike didn't. I would be surprised if there wasn't disagreements on.
It is healthy to work things out, even if it's a little heated. I'm a little upset with the way the whole JK thing was handled, but Kerr is not a guy who's going to try and upstage people. He's still an excellent coach, and he's still a guy who's great people person, great listener, all that. I'm not worried about that at all. I'm not a Kerr hater by any means. That doesn't mean changes don't need to happen sometimes. Whatever that means. We got to adjust. They've adjusted. We need to adjust now. There's no more time to waste with Steph either.
I will also say, though, I don't think Steve gets fired, despite all the. There's reasons. I just said that I wrote that not playing JK was fireable, quote unquote, in terms of making it hard for us to have optionality with the salary cap sheet. However, that's not Steve's job. Steve's job is to win the next game. So I understand that. It's also not like Steph's job to look ahead and go, oh, yeah, instead of running this play for me, run it for JK because I don't want him to be unhappy. Dude, Steph has enough to worry about.
Steph stays in his lane, and I'm glad he's not this player GM, player coach type of Okay. I'm appreciative of that.
But it also might serve him well to have all that, but he has enough on his plate. So I guess what I'm just saying is that I don't think Steve will get fired because what he showed us in the Houston series is like how we make adjustments and stuff. We really need Steve, Steph, Draymond, and Jimmy to win a playoff series. Granted, to get there is tough, and maybe Steve isn't the best to navigate the regular season to get there. Okay. But once we get there, so he has to be good enough to get us a 6 seed or better. We could go on and on, but we'll never know because the timeline never happened in our universe where we didn't make the playoffs in a 7-game series. We made it, and we beat the opponent, bottom line. And we beat them in a fashion where Game 7, every veteran executed the game plan to a T. And despite the youngsters having deer in the headlights, we survived that even with youngsters being youngsters. So based on this, I just don't see firing Steve. You can't. We just have to make the playoffs with Steve and somehow get a 6 seed. You can fire him along the way. You can fire him if we never get to the playoffs. But we got to make the 2026 playoffs with Steve, Steph, and Draymond.
Open to having a different coach. Yeah. Who's better?
No, you could say, maybe Willie Green, but he doesn't have the playoff experience. You could say maybe Tyronn Lue. But he's under contract.
Team.
Michael Malone. You could say.
Michael Malone has a lot of the same issues. He also didn't want to play any of the young guys, lack of creativity. That's why he got fired.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have the resume that Kerr has, obviously. But
I'm in agreement with you. But it's from the standpoint of we're about to start a 7-game series. Who do we want? You absolutely need Steve, Steph, and Draymond, and Jimmy.
That's why I was hoping he would show more creativity. So none of this would be a problem.
Steve himself can improve, but we're not firing him. That's the thing.
No, I wasn't advocating for that. And
I wasn't saying you were. It's just to the general public.
Yeah.
Anybody listening. Steve getting fired is not logical between now and the next playoffs. We have to have him there for the next playoffs. You saw the enthusiasm of Draymond going into the playoffs. Steve is the one that comes up with the, what do they call it? Slater found out the name of it, the installs. Install. Like I'd never heard of that.
Yeah.
So
that sounds like a modern term.
But I can't wait. I can't wait for the installs.
I don't think anyone is doubting Kerr's amazing at that. There's no doubt about that. Just the X's and O's and the game plan, reading what other teams' adjustments are going to be. He's incredible at that.
I want people to feel the excitement that Draymond feels and Steph feels. They talked about it on the podium. And Steve feels going into the playoffs, and that stuff works. And so anybody that tells you fire Steve, it just doesn't it's not logical because 2026 round 1, we need Steve for those installs with Draymond and Steph and Jimmy.
Who are you going to get? Popovich? Come on, man.
Shout out Popovich.
Yeah, of course. El Jefe.
El Jefe, yeah.
Maybe was talking, I think, about adding Mike Brown. Not replacing Kerr for Mike Brown. Yeah, it's cool. I like Jerry and Terry, as we like to call them, Stotts and Stackhouse. But I do think Mike Brown being back on the team would be – I don't think it would just be nostalgia. He's one of the best coaches in the league at putting a defense around Draymond that really maximizes Draymond's unique defensive abilities. Be able to stand up to Kerr because of the championship resume and be like, dude, you need to play Kuminga. You need to put Guy Santos in. I think Mike Brown has a little leverage for that type of stuff. So I'd be extremely happy, although I'm not dissatisfied with what we got out of Jerry Stackhouse and Terry Stotts at all. Do we have to fire them to add Mike Brown? I don't think we'd have to.
What's in it for Mike Brown, though?
Come coach Steph again.
Give Mike Brown his own program somewhere.
Yeah, I think he deserves
or
to be
close to it. Give him a program. at some franchise, and we can name a whole bunch of franchises that need him.
Yeah. Although, Kenny Atkinson did that thing. He went from head coach to assistant to back to head coach again.
Oh, yeah. Look at Terry Stotts. He's now an assistant.
Exactly. I think Terry Stotts would be a great head coach, too. He had a lot of success in a small market with a small guard.
I'm sure Chase Center has a lot to do with that. In other words, revenue, whatever you pay a coach doesn't come up on the salary cap sheet. Trust me. Joe Lake is he's paying $1 for Terry Stotts, if not just by reputation.
Because we have the best owner in sports, baby.
It's not just a one-way street. It's the other way around, too. It's like Terry Stotts, his agent. Yes, they have agents. His agent is going.
Yeah.
You're the Golden State Warriors. You're getting Terry Stotts. You have to pay him like you're the Golden State Warriors. Yeah. So all the logic points to Terry Stotts getting paid a lot. And how's that paid for? Those expensive Chase Center seats. So be grateful for that. We do have
fans' money, baby.
Best owner in sports, right, D?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. Sacramento is a very difficult place for coaches. They've ran through head coaches. They have a new head coach every 18 months, man. And he got them into the playoffs, of course. I know it was against us and everything, but to get the Kings to Game 7 in the playoffs when they hadn't made it for 17 years, that's an accomplishment, man.
Vivek has no idea what he's doing. So you just look at Sacramento. We're so lucky to have Lacob because usually these owners are different. Shout out Kenny Atkinson, Coach of the Year.
Oh, poor Kenny. Me and my family were rooting for the Cavs, actually.
Yeah.
Because Donovan, Utah.
To credit the Pacers for I didn't watch any of the games, but what I heard was that Pacers are the Pacers, just like last year. They run a fast style, and when you've got Garland injured and then Donovan Mitchell injured, you better have some stallions to go up against the Pacers because they play like their namesake, pacing around. And so, them at a buzzsaw. Yeah. And for the Warriors to lose right now, I'm sure glad the rest of the playoffs, super intriguing. I'm going to probably watch all of those games. Yeah. Pacers against the Knicks. I think I'm rooting for the Knicks to get the Pacers back just because the get back style of basketball. Man, the Knicks in the finals, Dean? Is that possible? Even the Pacers, right? Oh. Wow, Knicks Pacers again, man. Remember when it was Reggie Miller and
who
else? Mark Jackson on New York back then against Reggie, was it? I don't know.
Mark Jackson played for Bulls.
Reggie. Yeah, Mark Jackson.
Yeah.
Reggie. So was Chris Mullin.
Yeah, so in 2000. Although I don't know if they played the Knicks.
Oh, you're right. Antonio and Dale Davis. Dale Davis is Trace Jackson Davis's dad.
Yeah.
It's nuts. Draymond, he saw this thing on threads from Antonio Davis. Antonio Davis was talking about Draymond. And Draymond goes, yeah, you're cool, Antonio, but Dale Davis was really like the enforcer or something like that. Not those words exactly. And I was thinking, wait a minute. Did Draymond literally just reference in a tweet? Okay, it's threads, but it's a tweet. He just referenced Trace Jackson Davis's dad, like his teammate's dad. It was crazy. And then I was like, oh, by the way, Chris Mullin was on that team. Isn't that nuts?
Rick Smits, was it? I always get those two confused.
Oh, yeah. Rick Smits, yeah.
Yeah.
The Knicks played the Pacers in epic series. Who was on the Knicks? Was it?
Oh, someone said LJ, Allen Houston, Patrick Ewing, John Starks.
Yeah. Oh, man, those were epic. Oh, I loved it when Larry Johnson was on the Knicks, man.
I was always a Miller guy. And,
John Starks. Yeah.
Oh, dude. I don't know.
I think I was rooting for the Knicks back then. I'm not sure. Yeah.
I like Brunson, though. This is bizarre, dude. This is bizarre, man. I looked at the first video where I was in the thumbnail. It was Warriors versus Nuggets in the first round, 22. I mentioned that the Jazz got eliminated, and Jalen Brunson had 41 points in that elimination game. But also, and I totally forgot this, apparently the Nuggets fought each other and Jokic got ejected in game 3 because they went down 3-0. Do you remember that at all?
No, Jokic got ejected.
There was a fight between the Nuggets on the bench, and Jokic got ejected, and we went up 3-0.
Between Nuggets.
Huh?
Between the Nuggets.
Yeah.
Dang.
They were like, I forget what I said happened, and I don't remember the fight at all. But, dude, you have some receipts for some crazy games on these live streams, man. Just scroll down and down and down. It's amazing how quickly you forget.
Really, 2021 really started around pandemic.
Maybe 21.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. I think it was the Brooklyn game. You're like, oh, you guys want me to be on? You were live streaming from Brooklyn. But, yeah, there was some good memories from the 2020-21 season, even though we were the worst team in the NBA.
Yeah. It takes so long.
Yeah. That's when we had 3 rings, not 4. Wow.
What do you think Shivansh said?
Yeah.
Danny Avdia. What's your list?
I've always liked Danny Avdia. I thought he was a Swiss Army knife.
Do you like him better than, say, Cam Johnson?
I just haven't seen that much Cam Johnson. I don't know why. I like the idea of Cam Johnson because he seems like a large guy who can shoot and rebound fairly well.
Play defense. I love when we talk about Jonas Valanciunas, you're like, if we're going after JV, then why wouldn't we go after Vucevic, right? Remember that? So I love that in terms of like all these suggestions come up. So my target right now today, I'm enamored with Jabari. So would I rather have, you got to go after a guy. And if you're going after Denny, that means you're not going after Jabari, but I'd rather have Jabari. So that's why I wouldn't go after Denny. So it's kind of like that, but I like him. So he's on my list.
I was very impressed that Draymond didn't get another tech. Kind of hoping he would, actually, by the way. Who cares? Elimination game.
Yeah.
But I thought it was cool that he kept his cool. Honestly, just because the T-Wolves were respectful. And the Rockets were not. That's so, yeah, man. Is there any one of these teams you want to win the title, Rich?
Yeah.
Sounds like it's the Knicks.
Oh, no. I said earlier, I'm going to root for Ant. I really am. I want him because Minnesota's dangerous. And the earlier he can get a championship, the less dangerous he will be the year after the championship. That's really my logic. It's crazy logic. I know that. Maybe. So I'd rather have Ant as a champion. I'd rather face Ant as a champion next year trying to defend the title because it's
Michael Jordan get his championship and we can get it out of the way. Steph Curry got one and it'll be fine.
No one's like Michael is 3 in a row. Dominant. But yeah, so I'm going to be rooting for Ant. Really, just I only thought of it just now. The great part about the NBA as it is, kudos to Adam Silver. I've criticized them on the other end for a lot of things like the refs and the funny rule book with the Draymond rules, linking that back to what you just said about the technicals. Yeah, if I were Lacob, I would really hammer hard on these Draymond rules. Isn't that funny? Jordan rules was literally a game plan. Draymond rules is actually the freaking rule book. Like, it's so unfair to him. But anyways, also unfair to Steph. We've talked about that before, how still remember the whole Monty Poole said that they had a memo about Steph. That's just, right? So Adam can improve. But going back to my point, Adam.
The compliment was what?
The compliment was that the remaining teams, I'm rooting for Ant now. I've decided.
Yeah.
And yet, if he doesn't make it and it's like the Knicks, I'll probably root for the Knicks. And then if they don't make it and it's the Pacers and Pacers against OKC, I'm just going to root against OKC because I think they're the juggernaut in terms of the draft picks and all that they have. Like, they have a chance to be a quasi-dynasty, and I don't want that because I'm competitive.
No, you never know, man.
So OKC is the one I would least root for out of the remaining 4.
I just love watching Jokic play. If Steph's out, then shoot, Jokic is my favorite player to watch.
Yeah.
And it's great. Don't get me wrong. And I don't like watching Shea score, but I really respect his defense, his leadership, his playmaking, all that. The Knicks are a lot of fun, even though I don't like their ownership group. And the New York fans, I promise you, will be very annoying if they win. But hey, the Pacers would be incredible if they made the finals. That would be a huge upset. That'd be like an 04 Pistons type thing.
Ooh.
Where Halliburton's great or Siakam is great. Siakam's already a champion, obviously, but that would be a huge upset. How do they pull this off type of deal? The Pacers have been in a ton of conflict. The first season that I was alive for was 95, 96, right? They made 11 or 12 conference finals in my lifetime, which is a lot more than I thought they would have had. So that organization is why you don't tank. It's the way the Jazz used to be, where just keep going as far as you can in the playoffs every year because it's better to make the playoffs. You're a winning organization. And look at that. Did they have to tank to get their guys? Nope. So I respect the Pacers a lot for being a small market organization that has had such success, even if they have only made one finals and haven't won a title. That's still, dude, making the conference finals is great.
You probably wouldn't have guessed that I'd be rooting for Minnesota, huh? I wouldn't have guessed that yesterday.
I think I've heard you present a lot, though. I don't know if I would have guessed, but it doesn't surprise me.
But I was on here for 5 games and said they're not championship contenders. I still think they're super flawed. They just throw the ball away like it's nothing. And Chris Finch goes crazy over that. He's pulling his hair out. I can see it.
Yeah.
But like
Chris Finch, man,
I'm rooting for him.
Last postseason with the torn ACL, didn't he?
Yeah.
That was tough, man. Most coaches would not be on the side. It would not be in the second row. Hey, go tell him that. I love that about him. He's tough, man.
Ant was on the podium the other day, and he started an answer by, "Oh, Finchy does this," and it's like Finchy. Yeah. Hilarious, love it. Yeah, no, I'm rooting for Minnesota, and
I like Minnesota.
It's crazy, except I'm like the only guy on the internet that's rooting for a team, but it's like they don't deserve it. But I am rooting for them to get it out of the way for Ant because they're up and coming. They're just going to get better.
I've been Ant guy since back when he was playing for Georgia.
Yeah.
We had a shot at the number 1 pick, and I was looking through it, and I also liked Isaiah Stewart. I thought he was tough.
Yeah.
But
good one.
There's not too many players who I will know who they are in college unless they're like
Steph
Curry.
Yeah.
And that wasn't me looking it up. That was Steph just being awesome.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if he went to a blue blood? He would have like 2 or 3. Oh, never mind. He would have some college championships. I love the Davidson thing. But, yeah, and I think has been incredible. And
real quick, did you do research on Wiseman that year? Because it was hard to do research on him.
I did, and I didn't like that he decided to sit out after 3 games, even before the season was canceled.
Yeah.
Although I grew to like him a lot as a person.
You weren't going to put LaMelo Ball and Steph on the same team. And Halliburton was so far down. You're not going to spend a number 2 on Halliburton. So there was who else was there at that point, right, D?
Yeah. It wasn't as bad of a draft as everyone made it out to be, but
it was, pretty thin.
I liked Halliburton because of the advanced stats. He had high levels of – I can't believe they voted him most overrated. Someone mentioned that. Yeah, Dean Agon said he's not overrated. Oh, that was horrible. I don't understand what you do. Yeah, the players voted that.
Rachel Nichols, I think it was on Instagram or something. She posted that only 90 players out of 450 voted for that overrated category. And
so a lot of guys left it blank.
There was a percentage on there. So she calculated literally that there had to be 13 or 14 guys in the NBA that voted Hallie.
Oh, it's the Kings, dude. No, I'm kidding. Yeah. I'm kidding.
What happened in these back rooms and locker rooms that there must have been some beef?
Maybe some dude was upset they didn't make the Olympics. I don't know.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I have no idea. It's very bizarre. I've never seen Halliburton.
13 feels like the right number of that guy has this many friends in the NBA.
Well, who knows what happened, but it's obviously not true. That dude is not overrated. I can't believe the Kings had him and Fox, and neither of them are on the team. We're just going off on tangents now, but oh man.
No, I'm ready. Let's pull up the Cello file. Man, this is the last one in terms of no more games. So for a while. We talked about JK ad nauseum on here, but still need to do the live that talks about him.
And Melly Mel's is asking about trades, dude. You have 5.5 hours. No. Yeah. Go back and listen. We covered it.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, you get to rewatch. Yeah, so I'll be figuring out what lives to do. Here we go. Boom.
Way to fight to the end, fellas.
Today he came back. He came here today talking about how he got a new blicky.
For the uninformed, what's a blicky?
How you don't know about no blicky, man? You had a blicky? You told me you had a blicky growing up.
Yeah.
You was a shooter.
A strap.
Yeah, that's a blicky.
All right. Yeah.
Sir.
Take care, everybody. Thanks, Dean. Appreciate you.
See you soon.